Dear soul, there is something you need to know now. The celestial realms are wrapping their light around you in this exact moment, descending with a message of profound protection, absolute truth, and comforting clarity that your spirit has been silently begging for. Heaven has felt the sudden, heavy ache that has settled into your chest over the last few days, a sharp, intuitive sting that your human mind couldn't quite label but your spirit recognized instantly. You have felt a coldness in the air, a shifting of the invisible gears within your connection, and a restless energy that has kept you awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations and moments in your mind, trying to find the source of the unease that has wrapped itself around your bones like a vine. You have noticed the subtle withdrawals, the missed calls that were once never missed, the slight distraction in the eyes of the one you love, and the hollow ring behind words that used to carry the full weight of sincerity. Today, the divine is stepping forward to lift the burden of confusion from your shoulders. The universe is pulling back the curtain on a hidden storm in the physical world, because the silence you are experiencing is not a quiet, natural pause in the rhythm of your connection. It is the suffocating weight of a massive betrayal that has been growing in the dark, feeding on secrecy, and poisoning the roots of everything you believed was sacred. Your soulmate is crying right now for hiding a sinful secret from you. Behind your back, while you poured your love and trust into the connection with an open and generous heart, they have been having an affair with your toxic partner, feeding directly into the very cycle of pain you fought so hard, so desperately, and so bravely to escape. This is the truth the universe is laying bare before your eyes today, not to wound you further, but to set you free from the invisible chains you did not even know were being fastened around your spirit. From the window of the heavens, we see the tears your soulmate is shedding in this very hour. But you must understand the nature of those tears, dear soul, because not all tears are born from the same well. They are not crying out of a sudden, elevated spiritual awakening or a noble moment of self-reflection. They are weeping because the rot of deception has finally begun to consume their own inner peace. The secret they have been carrying has grown too large to contain, too heavy to hide beneath the surface of casual smiles and daily routines. They are sitting in the dark, trembling under the crushing weight of a double life, paralyzed by the realization that they have willingly stepped into a trap of their own making. The guilt is no longer a manageable whisper in the back of their mind. It has become a roaring, relentless storm that refuses to let them sleep, eat, or breathe without the constant reminder of what they have done. They are mourning the imminent loss of your trust, because deep down, in the most honest corner of their soul, they know that the moment this heavy, toxic truth fully steps into the light of your awareness, the sacred bridge they shared with you will be permanently and irreversibly altered. They are terrified of that moment, not because they fear the consequences for themselves, but because somewhere beneath the layers of poor choices and spiritual compromise, they still recognize the rare, luminous quality of the love you gave them, and they understand that they have taken something irreplaceable and shattered it against the rocks of their own weakness. The divine wants you to see the intricate, darker spiritual tapestry of why this occurred, because understanding the mechanics of this betrayal will be essential to your healing and your ultimate freedom. This betrayal is not a reflection of your worth. Let that truth settle into every cell of your body. It is not a commentary on your beauty, your devotion, your capacity to love, or the depth of your commitment. It is not a failure of anything you did or did not do. You showed up to this connection with the fullness of your heart, offering a love that was authentic, generous, and rooted in a genuine desire to build something lasting and meaningful. The fault does not live in your hands, no matter how many times the wounded part of your mind tries to convince you otherwise in the coming days. This betrayal is a calculated test of your spiritual sovereignty, a crucible that the universe has allowed to unfold because it is time for you to see, with absolute clarity, who truly belongs in the sacred architecture of your future and who has disqualified themselves from that privilege. Your toxic partner represents an old, unhealed karmic cycle that you fought a monumental battle to break free from. Think back, dear soul, to the days when you were still tangled in that web of manipulation, emotional volatility, and soul-crushing doubt. Remember the version of yourself that existed in that relationship, the person who shrank to fit into someone else's chaos, who silenced their own intuition to keep the peace, who abandoned their boundaries over and over again in the desperate hope that love alone could fix what was fundamentally broken. It took immense spiritual fortitude, countless tears, sleepless nights, and a fierce, almost superhuman reclamation of your personal power to close that chapter and walk away from the manipulation, the gaslighting, the doubt, and the pain. That departure was not a casual decision, it was a spiritual war, and you won it. You clawed your way out of a darkness that many people never escape, and you did it with a strength that the higher realms still honor and celebrate. That past version of your life was a low, vibrational frequency that could no longer hold you as you climbed higher into your worth, and every step you took away from that toxic dynamic was a step toward the person you were always meant to become. However, the shadows of our past rarely disappear without a final attempt to reclaim us. This is a universal spiritual law that the divine wants you to understand deeply. When you break free from a karmic cycle, the energy of that cycle does not simply evaporate into the atmosphere. It lingers, it watches, and it waits for an opening, a crack in your armor, a moment of vulnerability, a back door through which it can slither back into the sacred space of your life. Your toxic partner, unable to reach your elevated energy directly because you had built strong, conscious boundaries around your heart and your mind, sought exactly that kind of back door. They could not approach you head-on because you would have seen through them in an instant. Your discernment had grown too sharp, your self-respect too fortified, and your awareness too keen for them to manipulate you the way they once did. So instead, driven by unresolved envy, a desperate need for control, and a deep, corrosive desire to pull you back down into the familiar chaos of the past, they targeted the one person who had direct, unguarded access to your heart, your soulmate. This was not an accident or a coincidence. It was a deliberate, strategic move, even if it unfolded under the disguise of casual encounters, innocent conversations, or seemingly harmless interactions. The energy behind it was predatory, calculated, and aimed directly at the foundation of the new life you were building. Your toxic partner baited a trap, using their knowledge of you, their understanding of your patterns, and their ability to identify weakness in others to draw your soulmate into an entanglement that was designed from the very beginning to destroy your peace. And your soulmate, wrestling with their own unhealed insecurities, their own blind spots, their own unresolved wounds, and the temporary human weaknesses that live in every person who has not yet done the hard inner work of confronting their shadow self, allowed themselves to be pulled into the fire. They did not fall, they chose to step into it. They had the opportunity to see the red flags, to honor the commitment they made to you, to recognize the toxicity of the person approaching them, and to walk away with their integrity intact. But they did not. They made a choice, and that choice has consequences that the universe will not allow to remain hidden any longer. By engaging in this secret affair, they did not just compromise their own integrity, they actively chose to feed the very cycle of pain you bled to escape. They took the intimate knowledge of your past wounds, the vulnerabilities you shared with them in total sacred trust during your most open, most fragile, most honest moments, and they allowed the architect of those wounds to weaponize them behind your back. Think about the magnitude of that, dear soul. The stories you told in the quiet hours of the night about what you survived, the tears you shed on their shoulder as you recounted the damage your partner inflicted on your spirit, the specific fears and triggers you entrusted to them because you believed they were safe, all of that intimate, sacred knowledge became a tool in the hands of the very person who caused you the most harm. It is a profound, layered deception that feels like a violation of the soul itself, because it is. It is a betrayal not just of your romantic trust but of the deepest, most vulnerable parts of your spiritual being. The universe acknowledges the depth of this sting. The higher realms do not minimize or dismiss the heartbreak of watching the person you considered a safe harbor, a resting place for your weary heart, drift directly into the camp of the one who sought to destroy you. Your pain is seen, your shock is understood, and your grief is held in the compassionate hands of the divine. But heaven is revealing this to you today, not to break your spirit, not to push you into despair, and not to confirm your deepest fears about love and trust. This revelation is coming to you now to completely liberate you. You are being shown this truth because the universe refuses to let you remain blind to an energy that is actively trying to sabotage your growth, your healing, and your forward momentum. This exposure is a massive act of divine intervention, one of the most powerful and protective moves the higher realms can make on your behalf. The light is forcing the darkness out of hiding so that you can see exactly who is standing before you, without the filter of hope, without the softening lens of love, and without the comfortable illusions that kept you from seeing what was happening right under your nose. If this hidden alignment had stayed buried in the dark, if the affair had continued in secret for weeks, months, or even years longer, it would have slowly drained your vitality, eroded your self-trust, and left you wondering why your spiritual path felt so heavy, so stagnant, so impossibly difficult despite all your efforts to keep your heart pure and your intentions aligned with the highest good. You would have sensed something was wrong, you would have felt the disconnection growing wider like a crack in a dam, but you would not have been able to name it, and that nameless dread would have consumed you from the inside out. The universe is refusing to let that happen. You are too important, too valuable, and too deeply loved by the divine to be allowed to wither in a lie. Right now, as your soulmate cries in the shadows of their guilt, as they wrestle with the knowledge that they have set fire to something sacred and cannot undo the damage, you are being called by the higher realms to anchor yourself into a frequency of absolute sovereignty. This is your moment to remember who you are at the very core of your being, beneath the roles you play, beneath the love you give, beneath the trust you extend. You are a sovereign spirit with the divine right to walk through this world with your head held high and your heart intact. Do not fall into the trap of asking what you did wrong to deserve this. That question is a poison, and it will lead you down a spiral of self-blame that has no bottom and no truth at its center. You did nothing wrong. You loved honestly, you trusted openly, and you gave your heart to someone who, in this chapter, proved unable to hold it with the reverence it deserved. Do not lower your vibration by entering a cycle of anger, revenge, or desperate questioning. Do not reach for your phone to confront, to beg for explanations, or to demand answers that will only deepen the wound. The truth has already been revealed, and no amount of conversation will change the actions that were taken in the dark. The actions of your soulmate are a reflection of their own spiritual maturity, or the painful lack thereof, and their inability to hold the high, vibrational, unconditional love you offered them. Not everyone who enters your life is equipped to carry the weight of real, transformative love. Some people are drawn to the light you carry but are ultimately more comfortable in the shadows. They chose a cheaper, chaotic counterfeit because their own internal shadows felt more familiar, more manageable, and more comfortable in the mud of the past than in the bright, demanding, expansive light of your future. That is not your burden to carry. That is their spiritual lesson to learn, and they will learn it, whether in this lifetime or the next, through the inevitable unfolding of karmic consequence that the universe has already set into motion. The angels want you to realize something essential in this moment, something that the shock and grief may be temporarily obscuring from your view. You have already proven, beyond any shadow of doubt, that you can survive this fire. You are not a stranger to heartbreak, to betrayal, or to the agonizing process of rebuilding your life from the ground up. You are an expert at rising from the ashes, because you have done it before with a grace and a determination that left the heavens in awe. The strength you cultivated when you originally broke free from that toxic ex-partner, the iron will you forged in the furnace of that earlier suffering, is still fully alive inside your spirit. That resilience was not lost or used up. It was merely resting, gathering its power in the quiet, and it is now rising within you with a force and a fury that will ensure you do not allow yourself to be dragged backward into a dynamic you have long outgrown. You did not survive that first fire only to be consumed by the same flames wearing a different face. The universe is drawing a hard, unyielding line in the sand, and on your side of that line stands every angel, every guide, and every benevolent force in the spiritual realm, ready to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. This is your moment to stand tall in your divine authority and refuse to play a part in a recycled script of betrayal, manipulation, and soul-level compromise. Let the old timeline dissolve, dear soul. Let the version of the future you imagined with this person fade like morning mist under the heat of the rising sun. It is painful to release, agonizing even, because you did not just love the person, you loved the possibility, the promise, the dream of what could have been. But the divine timing of this revelation is flawless, serving as a massive crucible for your ultimate elevation. You are not losing something real, you are being freed from something that was built on a fractured, dishonest foundation. True soulmate connections are designed to elevate, protect, and mirror our highest divine potential. They are built on mutual respect, radical honesty, fierce loyalty, and a shared commitment to spiritual growth that does not waver when temptation or darkness comes knocking. A true soulmate does not collude with your past tormentors. A true soulmate does not take your wounds and hand them to the person who inflicted them. A true soulmate does not choose the cheap thrill of forbidden secrecy over the sacred, hard-won trust you placed in their hands. If someone chooses to align with the very source of your pain, they are actively disqualifying themselves from the sacred space of your future, and no amount of tears, apologies, or promises to change can alter that spiritual reality. You are being stripped of an illusion so that the genuine, unshakable blessings of the higher realms can finally find a clean, untainted home in your life. The universe cannot pour new wine into an old, cracked vessel. It cannot build a magnificent temple on a foundation riddled with deception. By removing this false structure from your path, the divine is clearing the ground for something so much greater, so much more aligned, so much more worthy of the love you carry within you. You may not be able to see it right now through the haze of the pain, and that is perfectly understandable. Healing is not instant, and the angels are not asking you to skip over the grief or pretend that this revelation does not cut deeply. They are simply asking you to trust that on the other side of this storm, there is a landscape of possibility, connection, and joy that you have not yet imagined, a future that is being carefully, lovingly constructed by the hands of the divine even as you read these words. The heavenly hosts are surrounding you in this exact hour, wrapping you in an armor of celestial light that no darkness can penetrate, silencing the frantic worries of your mind, and whispering strength directly into the marrow of your spirit. They are standing guard over your sleep tonight, ensuring that your rest is deep and restorative even as your waking mind processes the weight of this truth. And they are also standing in the path of those who sought to harm you, ensuring that the karmic scales are balanced with absolute justice. The divine does not forget, and it does not overlook. Every action taken in the dark will be met with its corresponding consequence in the light, and you do not need to orchestrate that justice yourself. It is already in motion, already unfolding, already written in the celestial ledger with an ink that cannot be erased. Your only task now is to focus on yourself, on your healing, on your boundaries, and on the magnificent, resilient spirit that has carried you through every storm you have ever faced and will carry you through this one as well. Keep your boundaries rigid in the days and weeks ahead. There will be attempts to explain, to justify, to minimize, and to beg for a second chance. There will be tears, promises of change, and carefully worded appeals to your compassion. Your heart is generous, and the divine knows that your instinct will be to forgive, to soften, to open the door just a crack. But the angels are urging you to hold firm, to let your discernment guide you rather than your longing, and to remember that forgiveness does not require you to re-enter a burning building. You can forgive from a distance. You can release the bitterness without releasing your boundaries. You can wish someone well on their journey while firmly, lovingly closing the door that they themselves broke. Breathe through the initial shock of the exposure, dear soul. Let the waves of emotion come and pass without clinging to them or fighting them. Cry if you need to cry. Rage if you need to rage. Sit in silence if silence is what your spirit craves. But through it all, hold on to the unshakable truth that you are completely safe, you are infinitely valued, and the light of your total liberation has already won the day. The battle is over even though the echoes of the war still ring in your ears. Trust your intuition, that inner compass that tried to warn you before your conscious mind was ready to listen, and step forward into your freedom with the full knowledge that every step you take is guided, protected, and celebrated by the entire celestial realm. You are not walking alone. You have never been walking alone. And the path ahead of you, though it may look uncertain in this moment, is paved with a light so brilliant that it will make every shadow you have ever known fade into insignificance. Trust the divine. Trust yourself. And step forward, dear soul, into the magnificent, uncompromised, and radiant future that has always been yours.